Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Diane and my passion is painting and creating in my studio. Every day I share a video with you on YouTube in which I paint and create all sorts of nature-inspired pictures. I also share loads of tips on how to make the most of your painting journey, interrupted fairly frequently by our family of dogs, cats, chickens and sheep. So welcome on board, click subscribe and turn on notifications, and let's learn to paint watercolor. Hi everyone and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to paint a misty mountain landscape, and this is something that is loosely based on my memory of living in Germany near the Alps and the wonderful misty effects you get over the mountains there, and I'm sure that in the United States and Canada there are lots and lots of similar sorts of views, so hopefully that will strike a chord with you. And if you're wanting to learn to paint watercolor landscapes, then it's really a good idea to start with something simple like this, because it's not got much perspective in it and it's really easy. So we're only going to be working with 5 colors today, and I'm going to be also using my water brush here to give it a bit more of a workout as I'm learning how to use it. But first of all, I'm going to swatch out my colors for you to show you what I'm going to be using. And we've got the Old Faithful Quinacridone Gold, which is a lovely color and is basically the backbone of all my paintings these days. Together with that we use Cobalt Blue, which I try to refrain from calling cadmium blue. It's you'll notice a mistake in the video, but don't take any notice. This is Cobalt Blue, and that's going to be for the sky, and we're going to use in the sky as well, we're going to be using Naples Yellow, which is an opaque yellowish color, which tends to mix quite well with Cobalt Blue, and it just makes a grayish kind of color. So stick with the video and you'll see that in action as we do the sky. So that's the Naples Yellow. And then we also need some Winsor Violet or any kind of quinacridone purple or violet, a dark mauve color, anything like that will do fine, which we're going to blend with the quinacridone to make some of our darks. And then you could use ultramarine for the other blue, or you could use phthalo blue or Winsor blue, whichever one you happen to have, which is a rather greenish sort of blue, this one here. So those are basically the colours that I used. You could probably make a version of this with almost any colours really. You could certainly use the ultramarine in the sky instead of the cobalt blue if you wanted to. So there we are. So here's my brush and let's get started. So here we go, and I'm just going to drop in the cadmium blue and spread it out by squeezing a little bit on my brush to release the water as we go along. And I have found so far that I can get quite a lot of control here, and I'm going to drop in a little bit of yellow because we're going to have a slightly streaky yellowy sort of sky effect. Just a little bit more down here, and we'll spread that out. A little bit more blue. The nice thing about Naples Yellow is that it doesn't go green when it hits blue. You get a sort of slightly grey tone, so that's a good thing. So there we are, just a nice light sky. Maybe put a little bit more in over here because, you know, watercolors dry much lighter when they start out, which is constantly confusing to all of us. So we're not smoothing that all out, I'm just giving it some variation there, and I'm hoping that as that dries that will continue to have a bit of variation. Okay, so then once that's dry, I'm going to come in and lay in some mountains in the distance. Maybe put a little bit more yellow down there, right in the background. So I'm going to, I'm going to come in with a slightly darker but still light shade, and we're going to do layers of mountains in the distance. So we'll dry that off and I'll be back in a tick. Okay, so back to the cadmium blue again. Now it's dry, and we'll just put in a line of hills in the background. It doesn't really matter how you do that line. And then we're going to just drag that down and then wet that with a little bit more squeezing on the brush and let that bleed down, so it gives you a nice graduated wash. And then we let that dry. And now for the next layer, I'm going to use bits more of a violet-y blue colour, so it's a bit of Windsor violet mixed in with my cadmium, cobalt rather, and then we come in with another layer of hills. And then just again a little bit more water, wet it and let that run down, and then we're going to pop the hairdryer on again, and then some more of the same, maybe a little bit more bluish, a little bit darker. And dry it again. And then again a little bit darker. The hardest thing about this is trying to make the line of the hills random. The second hardest thing is wondering what the dogs are up to when they suddenly start to bark. Of course, technically speaking, I should probably wait for this to dry naturally, as I often have been known to say. But I want to get this done. A bit more quickly. So this is quite fun. You can experiment as you go along, of course. Trying out different things, different ways of holding the brush even. How that's going to work out. Now I'm going to try to mix up some greenish, dark greenish blue. So that's quinacridone into ultramarine, and then I'm going to bring in a line of mountains here. That might be a bit more green than I wanted it, so I'll just pick up a bit more blue. So now I'm just making that wet in the foreground. And I'm going to paint this bit here in a mixture of colours that I imagine would be appropriate for the mountain side. Trees, that is to say. So we're just dumping in a whole lot of blue mixed with quinacridone gold to make some dark greens. And I'm going to let that come down like that in the front. And a bit of violet, perhaps to make some darker darks with the blue. That's all going to spread out. Some pointy bits for trees in the distance there. And then on this side, we're going to do it much more violet, a violet-y blue, because that's going to be further away. So that's Winsor purple with quinacridone gold and ultramarine. It gives some really rather lovely, rich mixtures of colour there. And we'll let that go fuzzy. We'll drag that up a little bit, and that will go fuzzy. And back here, this needs a bit more reinforcement there. I mean, imagine that that's a valley filled with mist. And coming back here, as this is drying a little bit, we can add a few more darks going into the parts where it's darkest, and then some lights, some brights. Where it was brighter. And then I will let this dry rather than using the hairdryer on it. And we'll see how that turns out. So there's the final painting. I've just put a mount around it so that you can see more clearly what happened. I haven't touched it at all since I said I was going to let it dry. I might want to put in another line here of wash just to make that look a bit slightly better in the shape there. I don't know whether that went quite right or not, but it's not too bad. So I hope you enjoyed that. Give it a try. If you want to learn to do landscapes, this is a really good way to start. Just putting it together like this, and you get a quite a natural and nice effect, and it's a good way to start without too much detail, just colour really, giving a sense of depth, which is what you really want in a landscape. So start small and simple, and don't be too ambitious with lots of perspective and stuff, but just use colour, and that's going to be more successful for you. So we'll be doing more of these. I hope you enjoyed that one. No sketch for this, I don't think. It doesn't really need it. But do go and take a look at our website, and look at the description below for links to materials and so on that I've been using, so that you can save yourself some time for painting and not scouring the internet, which is not the most exciting thing to do, I don't think. So I will let you go now, and I'll see you back here tomorrow, hopefully, for another exciting exploration in the world of watercolour. And yeah, have a lovely evening, and I'll see you again soon. Bye now. Bye bye everybody. Bye bye.